The dust motes dance in the afternoon light as I fold another cardigan and add it to Mum's drawer. 4 years of this routine, and I still can't bring myself to reorganize her closet. Every sweater, every scarf holds memories of who she was before the illness took over, before I became her full-time nurse at 18. My name is Harmony, and I gave up my spot at university to care for my dying mother. Not that I had much choice. My brother Carson was finding himself somewhere in Southeast Asia, and someone had to step up. The familiar beeping of medical equipment downstairs provides a steady rhythm to my movements as I continue organizing. Mum's sleeping now, finally peaceful after a rough morning. These quiet moments are when I allow myself to remember who I used to be. My hand brushes against a worn shoebox pushed to the back of the closet shelf. Inside, beneath old photos and birthday cards, I find it, my university acceptance letter. The paper is crisp, preserved like a pressed flower. Dear Ms. Whitney, we are pleased to offer you admission. The sharp buzz of my phone breaks the silence. Unknown international number. Heard Mum's sick. What's the plan for the house? My stomach drops. After 8 months of silence, this is what Carson leads with. Not, how is she? Or, I'm sorry I haven't called. The house, always about the assets with him. I'm still staring at the message when Zariah calls. My best friend has an uncanny ability to sense when I'm spiraling. How's she doing today? Zariah asks, her voice warm with genuine concern. Same as yesterday. Dr. Stevens adjusted her pain meds again. I sink onto the edge of my bed. Guess who just texted? No way. Carson? Bingo. Asking about the house, of all things. That entitled piece of... Zariah catches herself. What are you going to say? Nothing yet. I'm too angry to respond. I glance at the acceptance letter still in my hand. Remember when we were supposed to be roommates? Living the college dream? Hey, don't do that to yourself, Zariah says firmly. You made the choice you had to make. Did I? Sometimes I wonder if I'm just the family doormat, the reliable one, the one who, a crash from downstairs cuts me off. Mom, I call out, already running. I have to go, Z. I find Mom on the floor beside her bed, IV stand toppled next to her. I just wanted water, she whispers as I help her up. Her body feels lighter than ever, bird bones wrapped in paper-thin skin. You should have called me, I say, settling her back into bed. That's what the bell is for. She squeezes my hand weakly. You do too much already, sweetheart. That's what daughters are for, right? The words taste bitter, but I force a smile. No. Her voice is suddenly sharp, more alert than she's been in days. That's what family is for. All family. Her eyes meet mine, and for a moment I see a flash of the librarian she used to be, the woman who could silence a room with a look. Carson texted today, I tell her, adjusting her blankets, about the house. Something passes across her face. Not surprise, exactly. More like confirmation. Did he now? She reaches for her water glass with trembling hands. Help me sit up, dear. There's something we need to discuss. But before she can continue, a coughing fit takes over. By the time it passes, she's exhausted, drifting back to sleep. I watch her breathing even out, wondering what she wanted to tell me. My phone buzzes again. Another message from Carson. Should probably start thinking about arrangements. Realtor friend of mine specializes in quick sales. The rage I've been suppressing for years rises like bile. I type out and delete 3 different responses before settling on silence. Let him think I'm the same pushover I've always been. I return to Mum's closet, but instead of continuing to organize, I sit on the floor and finally open the envelope I've been avoiding. Inside is a letter I wrote to myself 4 years ago, the night I decided to stay. Dear future me, I hope you don't hate me for this choice. But Mom needs us. And maybe someday, someone will remember we were the one who stayed. A tear splashes onto the paper, smudging the ink. I fold it carefully and tuck it away with the acceptance letter, then pull out my phone and finally respond to Carson. Mum's still alive. Maybe visit her before planning the estate sale. I hit send and turn my phone off, knowing he won't reply. He never does. But for the first time in years, I don't feel like the powerless one. Mom wanted to tell me something about the house, and whatever it is, I have a feeling Carson won't like it. The medical equipment beeps steadily downstairs, marking time like a metronome. I close the closet door and head back to my duties, but something has shifted. The dust motes still dance in the light, but now they look less like decay and more like stars waiting to align. Mom died on a Tuesday. By Wednesday afternoon, Carson had materialized at the funeral home, designer sunglasses perched on his head, reeking of expensive cologne and fake grief. "Such a tragedy," he said to everyone who would listen, as if he hadn't been absent for the entire illness. Mom meant everything to me. I stood in the corner of the funeral parlor, watching him work the room like a politician. Every head pat, every sympathetic nod made my skin crawl. Zariah kept a steady hand on my arm, grounding me. "Did you see his Instagram?" she whispered. "He was parasailing in Bali 3 days ago." "Of course he was." I smoothed my black dress, the only one I owned. "Watch this. He hasn't asked me a single question about her final days." Right on cue, Carson approached with a small group of relatives in tow. "Little sis," he said, pulling me into a hug I didn't want. "You look exhausted. Being a caregiver must have been challenging." It was. I stepped back. "She asked about you, near the end." His smile flickered for just a second. "I'm sure she understood I couldn't get away. My work in Asia was... backpacking through hostels is work now." An awkward silence fell over the group. Carson recovered quickly, turning to our great-aunt Martha. "Speaking of work, I've been thinking about the house. It's far too big for one person, and the market is excellent right now." "The house?" I interrupted. "Mom's not even in the ground yet." "Just being practical, sis. Someone has to be." He patted my shoulder condescendingly. "You did what daughters are supposed to do. Now let Big Brother handle the business side." Zariah's grip on my arm tightened. I could feel her willing me not to cause a scene. "Mr. Sanders is handling everything," I said instead, referring to our family solicitor. "Mom made sure of that." "Remington?" Carson laughed. "That old fossil? We need someone more... current." The repast was worse. Carson had somehow convinced everyone to gather at Mum's house, our house, and was giving tours like a real estate agent. "The kitchen was recently renovated," I heard him telling Cousin Rachel. "Great potential for an open concept if you take down this wall." I escaped to the kitchen, where Aunt Vivienne was arranging casseroles. She'd been distant from the family for years, but something had brought her back for the funeral. "Your brother's quite the performer," she said, eyeing Carson through the doorway. "He's always been good at playing whatever role gets him what he wants." Vivian paused, studying me. "Your mother wasn't as naive as he thinks." Before I could ask what she meant, Carson's voice carried from the living room. "I'm thinking we could list by next week. Clear everything out this weekend." "Like hell," I muttered, starting toward the door, but Vivienne caught my arm. "Wait," she said quietly. "Let him show his hand first." I forced myself to stay put, listening as Carson continued his sales pitch to the gathered relatives. "Of course, we'll keep the important family pieces. The rest can go to charity. Mom would have wanted that." "Actually," I called out, finally entering the room, "Mum was very specific about what she wanted. She left instructions. With old Remington, yes, you mentioned that." Carson waved dismissively. "But as the eldest, I think You think what? I stepped closer. That 4 years of radio silence gives you the right to sweep in and take over? That your biology degree you never finished trumps Mom's actual wishes? The room went silent. Even the casserole-bearing neighbors stopped their quiet conversations to watch. Harmony, Carson said, his voice dangerously soft. Maybe we should discuss this privately. Why? You seem comfortable enough discussing the sale of our home with complete strangers. His perfect mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something ugly underneath. But then he smiled, all charm again. You're upset, I understand. Grief affects us all differently. Don't you dare. Everyone, he announced to the room. My sister is obviously overwhelmed. Perhaps we should wrap things up for today. People began gathering their coats, murmuring sympathetically. At me, not for me. I stood frozen as Carson played the gracious host, thanking everyone for coming, promising to be in touch about the estate sale. After the last guest left, he turned to me. That was unnecessary. Get out. It's my house too, sis. He headed for the stairs. I'll take Mom's room. You can keep yours until we sort things out. I watched him climb the stairs, my nails digging crescents into my palms. Through the kitchen door, I caught Vivienne's eye. She gave me a small nod, then pulled out her phone and stepped outside. Later that night, I heard Carson on the phone. Yeah, we can do a viewing tomorrow. No, my sister won't be a problem. Just a matter of paperwork. I pulled out my own phone and texted Remington. When can we meet? It's about Mum's will. His response came immediately. First thing tomorrow. Your mother left very specific instructions about this situation. For the first time since the funeral, I smiled. I woke to the smell of coffee and voices downstairs. For a moment I forgot. Thought it was Mom talking to one of her nurses. Then reality crashed back in. Sign here, I heard Carson saying, and initial here. I threw on clothes and rushed downstairs to find Carson at the kitchen table with a man in a suit. Papers were spread everywhere, including over Mum's favorite placemat. Morning, sis? Carson's cheerfulness felt like sandpaper on my skin. This is Marcus from Capital Real Estate. We're just handling some preliminary paperwork. Preliminary paperwork for what? I grabbed the nearest document. Property transfer forms. Now don't get emotional, Carson said, reaching for the paper. This is just standard procedure. The house needs to be sold, and as co-owners... Co-owners? I pulled the form away from his grasp. Since when? Marcus cleared his throat uncomfortably. Perhaps I should give you siblings a moment. No, stay, Carson insisted. My sister's just being difficult. Show her the ownership documents. Marcus pulled out more papers. According to these records, both you and your brother are listed as inheriting the property jointly. That's impossible. My voice shook. Mom never said anything about... Because Mom knew you'd react like this. Carson stood, towering over me. Look, I'm trying to be nice about this. You have a week to pack your things and find somewhere else to live. That's generous. Generous? The word came out as a whisper. I spent 4 years taking care of her while you were off living your best life, and you think giving me a week to leave my home is generous? Your home? Carson laughed. This stopped being your home the moment you turned it into a hospital ward. Do you think anyone wants to buy a house that smells like death? Marcus stood abruptly. I should go. No, please, I said, finding my voice. I'd love to know how my brother got these documents showing joint ownership when our mother's will hasn't even been read yet. The realtor looked between us, realization dawning on his face. The will hasn't been... Mr. Whitney, you assured me all legal matters were settled. They will be, Carson said smoothly. It's just a formality. I'm calling Remington, I said, pulling out my phone. That won't be necessary. Carson snatched the phone from my hand. Stop making this harder than it needs to be. Tears burned in my eyes, not sad tears, but angry ones. Give me my phone. Or what? You'll cry about it? That's all you do lately, isn't it? Cry and play the victim. He tossed my phone onto the couch. Face it, Harmony. You're not equipped to handle this. Go back to your little caregiver life and let me handle the real decisions. Something snapped inside me. 4 years of suppressed rage bubbled to the surface. I grabbed Mum's favorite coffee mug, the one with "World's Best Mom" that Carson had sent as a guilt gift last Christmas, and hurled it at the wall. The crash silenced everyone. "I'm calling the police," Marcus said, gathering his papers hastily. No need. I was eerily calm now. "I'm going to see Remington Sanders right now, and when I come back, if there's a single paper signed or a single item moved, I'll have him file every legal complaint possible." "You can't," Carson started. "I can. Because unlike you, I was here. I know every medical bill, every insurance claim, every legal document Mom signed in the past 4 years. I know exactly what she wanted." I grabbed my phone from the couch. "And I know she never said we were co-owners of anything." "You're delusional," Carson spat. "You spent so long playing nurse that you actually think you're special. Newsflash. You did what any daughter would do." "Mr. Whitney," Marcus interrupted. "I'm withdrawing my services. Call me when you have proper documentation of ownership." He practically ran from the house. I turned to follow him out, but Carson grabbed my arm. "Where do you think you're going?" "To see Remington." I yanked free. "And when I get back, you better be gone." "Or what?" "Or I'll show everyone the texts you sent Mom when she begged you to come home. The ones where you said her cancer was inconvenient for your travel plans." His face went white. "You're bluffing." "Try me." I headed for the door, then turned back. "Oh, and Carson? Mom saw right through you, right to the end." I drove to Remington's office with shaking hands, tears finally falling freely. When his secretary showed me in, he took one look at my face and sighed. "He's trying to sell the house, isn't he?" I nodded, wiping my eyes. "Your mother left very specific instructions," Remington said, pulling out a thick file. "I think you'll want to sit down for this." "Before we discuss the will," Remington said, adjusting his glasses, "there's something you should know. Your mother came to see me 6 months ago when her condition worsened." He slid a DVD across his desk. "She recorded this message. Said it was for when the storm comes." My throat tightened. That sounds like Mom, always speaking in metaphors. "She was quite lucid that day," he continued, "particularly about Carson. A memory surfaced. Mom sitting in her garden 3 months ago, surprisingly alert during one of her good days. "Come sit with me, sweetheart," she'd said, patting the bench beside her. "Tell me about your dreams." "Mom, we don't need to. Humor your dying mother." Her smile was gentle but firm. "What would you be doing right now, if things were different?" I'd told her about the university plans, the creative writing program, the life I'd put on hold. She'd listened intently, her fingers tracing patterns on her blanket. "You've always had the soul of a lighthouse, sweetheart," she'd said finally. "Don't let the fog steal your light." Back in Remington's office, I blinked away tears. "Can we watch it?" He nodded, inserting the DVD into his computer. Mom's face appeared on the screen, gaunt but composed, her librarian's reading glasses perched on her nose. "My dearest Harmony," she began, "if you're watching this, then Carson has done exactly what I feared he would. He's trying to take the house, isn't he?" I gasped. Even Remington looked impressed. "Your brother has always been predictable in his selfishness," Mom continued. "But you, my darling girl, you've been my lighthouse in the dark. You sacrificed everything without complaint, and I've been preparing for this moment." She held up a stack of papers. "These are the real property documents, The house was transferred solely to my name after your father died. I never added Carson's name to anything, despite his creative attempts to convince me otherwise. Another memory hit me, finding Mom in tears one night, clutching her phone. When I'd asked what was wrong, she'd quickly composed herself. "Just your brother being your brother," she'd said. Now I wondered what messages I'd missed. "There's a safe in my closet," Mum continued on screen. "Behind the blue hat box. The combination is your birthday. Inside, you'll find everything you need. Bank statements, medical records, and particularly interesting text messages I've saved." My hands clenched into fists. She'd been building a case all along. "But most importantly," Mum leaned closer to the camera, "you'll find a key. It opens a safety deposit box at First National. Don't tell Carson about any of this. Wait for the will reading. Trust Remington. And remember, sometimes the best revenge is simply letting someone reveal their true nature." The screen went dark. Remington cleared his throat. "The will reading is scheduled for next week. Until then, I suggest you find that safe." "What about Carson's ownership claims?" "Completely fabricated. I have all the original documents here." He patted the thick file. "Your brother has no legal right to sell anything." I stood, feeling stronger than I had in days. "Thank you, Remington, for everything." "One more thing," he called as I reached the door. "Your Aunt Vivian. She knows more than she's letting on. Your mother made her a backup executor for a reason." I drove home slowly, processing everything. When I arrived, Carson's rental car was gone, but Aunt Vivian sat on the porch swing. "Productive meeting?" she asked, eyebrow raised. "Very." I sat beside her. "Mom made you backup executor. Smart woman, your mother." Vivian pulled something from her purse, a small key ring. "Found these in her bedside drawer. There's a note attached." The note read, "For the day after the storm." "She knew," I whispered. "She knew exactly what Carson would do." "Of course she did. She was his mother too." Vivian's voice held a hint of steel. "She watched him take advantage of people his whole life. But she also watched you grow into someone stronger than he could ever be." "Why didn't she tell me any of this?" "Because you needed to focus on being her daughter, not her defender." Vivian stood. "The storm's here now, though, and you're ready for it." I turned the keys over in my hand. "Will you help me look for a safe in Mom's closet?" "Thought you'd never ask," she smiled. "Let's see what other surprises your mother left us." As we climbed the stairs, I remembered Mom's words from the video. Sometimes the best revenge is letting someone reveal their true nature. Carson had shown his. Now it was time to show mine. The safe contained exactly what Mom promised, and more. Bank statements showing suspicious withdrawals from Carson's old authorized user account. Screenshots of texts where he'd demanded money for his spiritual journey. And most damning, a letter he'd written threatening to contest any will that didn't give him the house. That manipulative little... Vivian stopped herself, shuffling through the papers. "No wonder your mother was so prepared." A loud bang downstairs made us both jump. Carson's voice boomed through the house. "Where are you hiding, sis?" "Perfect timing," I muttered, quickly returning everything to the safe except one folder. "Stay here." I found Carson in the living room with two burly men in moving company uniforms. They were lifting Mum's antique writing desk. "What are you doing?" I demanded. "Clearing out some valuable pieces before they get damaged." Carson didn't even look at me. "To the truck, guys." "Put it down," I said firmly. The movers hesitated. "Keep moving," Carson ordered. I pulled out my phone. "Remington? Yes, he's here with movers, taking Mum's things." I paused. "Yes, I'll tell them." Carson finally turned to me. "Playing tattletale?" "No, just informing them that they're participating in theft." I addressed the movers directly. "This property has no legal sale or transfer authorization. Everything you remove can be reported as stolen. The men carefully set down the desk. She's lying, Carson snapped. I have paperwork. Forged paperwork, I interrupted, opening the folder I'd brought downstairs. Want to explain these bank statements? Or these texts to Mom? His face went from red to white. Where did you get those? Mom kept everything, Carson. Every manipulative message. Every threat. I turned to the movers. I suggest you leave before this becomes a legal issue. They didn't need telling twice. Carson watched helplessly as they walked out. You think you're so clever, he snarled once we were alone. Playing the devoted daughter while secretly building a case against me? No, that was Mom. I was too busy actually taking care of her to plot anything. I held up his threatening letter, but she saw you coming a mile away. Give me those papers. He lunged forward, but Vivian appeared at the top of the stairs. I wouldn't, she called down. Those are copies anyway. Originals are quite safe with Remington. Carson's mask of control cracked completely. You're both insane. This is my house too. I deserve... What exactly do you deserve? I stepped closer. The inheritance you tried to manipulate out of our dying mother? The house you never helped maintain? Tell me, what exactly did you do to deserve anything? I was building a life, following my dreams. Someone had to make something of themselves instead of playing nurse. Playing nurse? My voice was ice. I cleaned her wounds. I held her hair back during chemo. I read to her when her eyes were too weak to focus. Where were you when she cried asking for her son? Don't try to guilt me. Guilt you? No, Carson. I'm done trying to make you feel anything. You're incapable of it. I walked to the front door and opened it. Get out. You can't. I can and I am. The will reading is next week. Until then, stay away from this house and everything in it. He stood there, fists clenched. This isn't over. Actually, it is. Vivian came down the stairs, phone in hand. Unless you want these texts to your mother shared with the entire family. The ones where you called her illness an inconvenience. Carson grabbed his jacket and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. He'll be back, Vivian warned. I know. I sank onto the couch. But now we're ready. My phone buzzed. Zariah, how'd the safe hunting go? Found everything and more, I texted back. Mom was always 10 steps ahead. That's our librarian, she replied. Want me to come over? I bring wine and revenge plotting skills. I smiled, then noticed an envelope that had fallen from the folder during Carson's grab attempt. It was labeled, "Not to be opened unless Carson threatens eviction." Actually, I texted Zariah, can you come now? There's something else we need to see. Vivian peered at the envelope. Your mother certainly had a flair for dramatic timing. She was a librarian, I said, carefully opening the seal. She knew every story needs proper pacing. Inside was a single photograph. Mom and Carson at the bank, dated 2 years ago. She was signing something while he stood smugly beside her. On the back, Mom had written, "The day your brother thought he won. The day I changed everything." I showed it to Vivian, who smiled slowly. Oh, this is going to be good. Remington's office felt smaller with all of us crammed inside. Carson sat near the window, scrolling through his phone with affected disinterest. Vivian perched beside me, her hand occasionally squeezing my arm in silent support. Zariah had insisted on coming too, positioning herself strategically between me and my brother. Shall we begin? Remington adjusted his glasses, pulling out a thick envelope. Finally. Carson straightened up. Let's get this over with so we can move forward with the sale. Remington cleared his throat. Before I read the will, there's a video message your mother requested we watch first. Another one? Carson rolled his eyes. How many dramatic recordings did she make? Just these two. Remington pressed play on his computer. This one's for both of you. Mom appeared on screen, looking stronger than in her final days. She was sitting in her favorite armchair, wearing the blue cardigan I'd helped her pick out last Christmas. My dear children, she began, if you're watching this, I'm gone. Carson, I assume you're already planning what to do with the house. And Harmony, you're probably worried about your future. You both take after your father in different ways. He too was always planning ahead. Carson smirked at me. I kept my face neutral. 2 years ago, Mum continued, Carson came to me with some papers to sign. He thought I was too weak, too medicated to understand what they were, but I knew exactly what I was signing, and what I wasn't signing. The smirk fell from Carson's face. You see, while Carson was showing me property transfer documents with one hand, I was signing my actual will with the other. A will that reflects not just my wishes, but the truth of the past 4 years. This is ridiculous, Carson interrupted. She was clearly not in her right mind. Actually, Remington paused the video. I have her medical records from that day, showing she was completely lucid. Shall I continue? Carson slumped back, his face darkening. Now, to the matter of my estate, Mum went on. To my son Carson, I leave the following. An itemized bill for $25,000, representing the money you borrowed for your travels. This amount will be donated in your name to the local women's shelter, where I volunteered before my illness. Consider it your first and only contribution to caring for others. She can't do that, Carson shot to his feet. She can and did, Remington said calmly. Please sit down. To my daughter Harmony, Mum continued, her voice softening. I leave the house and all its contents, plus my entire financial estate, to be used first for your education and then for whatever dreams you put on hold for me. You were my lighthouse in the darkest storm, and now it's your turn to shine. Tears rolled down my cheeks. Zariah squeezed my hand. Additionally, Mom added, I've left documentation proving Carson attempted to fraudulently obtain property rights. Whether to pursue legal action is up to Harmony. The video ended. Carson stood again, face contorted with rage. This is all your fault, he shouted at me. You turned her against me. You manipulated her while she was sick. That's quite enough, Remington interrupted, pulling out another DVD. Your mother anticipated this reaction too. This was recorded the same day, with myself and 2 witnesses present. The final video played. Mum looked directly into the camera, her librarian's steel showing through. Carson, if you're yelling right now, blaming your sister, let me be clear. I saw everything. Every ignored call, every bounced check, every attempt to secure your inheritance before I was even gone. I wasn't confused or manipulated. I was watching, and I made my choice with clear eyes and a clearer conscience. Silence fell over the room. Carson grabbed his jacket. You'll be hearing from my lawyer, he spat. Actually, Remington picked up another document. Your mother included a contest clause. Any legal challenge to the will results in your portion being doubled, meaning the shelter would receive $50,000 in your name instead of $25,000. Carson froze, hand on the doorknob. Face it, brother, I said quietly. Mom outplayed you. She knew you better than you knew yourself. He yanked the door open. This isn't over. Yes, it is, Vivian called after him. Your mother made sure of that. After he left, Remington handed me a set of keys. The house is officially yours. Your mother also left this. It was a university application, filled out in Mum's careful handwriting. On top was a post-it note. Time to leave the lighthouse and become the light. Love, Mum. I hugged the paper to my chest, feeling lighter than I had in years. Mum had given me more than just the house. She'd given me back my future. Well, Zariah grinned. I guess we're going to be roommates after all. For the first time since Mom died, I laughed. It felt like breaking free. The women's shelter director couldn't stop smiling as she held the check. $25,000. This will help so many families. My mother would have wanted that, I said, watching her pin the donation certificate on the wall. In memory of Denise, donated by Carson, stood out in bold letters. Your brother must be very generous, she said. Oh, you have no idea. Vivian's voice dripped with sarcasm as she examined the wall of donors. After leaving the shelter, we drove to the bank to clear out Carson's old room. He'd tried coming by the house twice more, each time leaving with less dignity than before. The final time, he'd arrived with a police officer, only to have Remington show up with all the documentation proving my ownership. Ready? Vivian asked as we pulled into the driveway. I nodded, clutching the box of trash bags. More than ready. Carson's room was exactly as he'd left it years ago, a shrine to his teenage self. Sports trophies he'd bought online to impress girls. Guitar he'd never learned to play. Photos of him in various exotic locations, always alone, always posing. Look at this, Vivian called from his closet. She held up a shoebox full of cash. Tagged Mom's emergency fund but never sent. Add it to the shelter donation, I said, stuffing old clothes into a bag. Might as well make it an even 30,000. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You think you've won? Wait till the family finds out how you trapped Mom into changing her will. He's trying to rally the relatives, I showed Vivienne the message. Perfect timing, actually. She pulled an envelope from her purse. Your mother left this with me. Said to open it if Carson tried turning the family against you. Inside were dozens of screenshots. Years of conversations between Mom and various family members. Carson asking each for money, making promises he never kept. Mom gently warning them, trying to protect them from his schemes. She documented everything, I whispered. Your mother was a librarian, Vivian smiled. Documentation was her superpower. I snapped photos of the screenshots and created a family group chat, excluding Carson. Since there are questions about Mom's will, here's some context she wanted you to have. Responses flooded in immediately. He told me he needed bail money. Said he was starting a charity. Borrowed $5,000 for a sure thing investment. Well, Vivian said, reading over my shoulder, I'd say that backfired on him spectacularly. We finished clearing the room in silence. Everything valuable went to charity. Everything personal into storage. As I packed the last box, something caught my eye. A small book wedged behind the radiator. It was Mom's diary from 15 years ago. I opened it randomly. Carson took money from my purse again. Says he needs it more than I do. Harmony offered me her birthday money to cover the bills. My children are teaching me the difference between taking and giving. You should read this. I handed it to Vivian. She skimmed a few pages, her expression softening. She knew, all along she knew exactly who both of you were. My phone buzzed again. Carson. The family too. Should have known you'd play dirty. The truth isn't dirty, I texted back. It just is. I'm still their golden boy. Watch how fast they forget when I need something. I thought about responding, but instead just blocked his number. Mom's voice echoed in my head. Sometimes the best revenge is letting someone reveal their true nature. Vivian helped me carry the last boxes downstairs. In the living room, Mum's writing desk sat where it had always been, where Carson had tried to steal it. On it lay my university acceptance letter, the one I'd kept all these years. You know, Vivian said, following my gaze. The spring semester starts in January. I know. I ran my hand along the desk's smooth surface. Mom already filled out my application. Of course she did. Vivian laughed. She probably chose your classes too. Actually, I pulled out the application. There, in Mum's neat handwriting, were course recommendations: creative writing, psychology, family law. She really did think of everything. She was preparing you, Vivienne said softly, not just for university, but for life after Carson's inevitable implosion. I looked around the room, at the space that was now truly mine, at the future Mom had protected for me, at the peace she'd orchestrated even after she was gone. "You know what's funny?" I said, putting the acceptance letter in my pocket. "This doesn't even feel like revenge anymore. It feels like justice." Vivienne nodded. "That's exactly what your mother intended." Outside, the moving truck Carson had sent away empty weeks ago drove past, now full of donations for the shelter. Everything comes full circle, I thought, even karma. The autumn wind scattered leaves across Mom's grave as I placed her favorite flowers, yellow daisies, against the headstone. My university acceptance letter was tucked in my jacket pocket, already creased from reading it so many times. "I got in, Mum," I whispered, brushing leaves from her name. "Full scholarship, just like you planned." "She'd be proud," Zariah said, standing a few steps back. "Actually, she'd probably say, 'I told you so.'" I laughed. "She absolutely would." My phone buzzed, a text from Vivienne. "Check your email, now." I pulled it up to find a forwarded message from the women's shelter. They'd named their new wing after Mum, and the first family had just moved in. The attached photo showed a young mother and daughter standing in front of a plaque that read, "The Denise Reading Room, a safe space to begin again." "Look at this," I showed Zariah. "Mum's still helping people. Speaking of helping people..." Zariah nodded toward the cemetery entrance. A familiar figure stood there, uncertain. Carson. He looked different. Cheaper clothes, no designer sunglasses. The past month hadn't been kind to him since the family learned the truth. "Want me to tell him to leave?" Zariah offered. "No." I stood up. Mom would want me to hear him out. He approached slowly, carrying something wrapped in brown paper. "I, found this while cleaning out my apartment. Thought Mom would want you to have it." He handed me the package. Inside was an old photo album I'd never seen before. "Mom made it," he said quietly. "Before she got sick. It's all pictures of you. School plays, science fairs, stuff like that. She used to show it to me when I'd visit, telling me how proud she was." "You mean the 2 times you visited in 4 years?" He flinched. "I deserve that. I deserve all of it." He looked at the headstone. "The shelter called. About the extra 5,000 you donated in my name. Mom's emergency fund. Seemed fitting." "Yeah." He shifted uncomfortably. "Listen, I know I can't fix what I did, but I'm seeing someone now, a therapist, trying to understand why I..." He trailed off. "Why you what? Abandoned us? Tried to steal Mom's house? Treated her illness like an inconvenience? All of it." His voice cracked. "I keep thinking about that video she made. How she saw everything, knew everything, and still just waited. Let me show who I really was." "That's who Mom was," I said. "A quiet observer who saw right through people's stories to their truth." "I miss her," he whispered. "I didn't think I would. But I do." "You missed her when she was alive too. You just didn't know it yet." He nodded, tears finally breaking through his facade. "The family's right to freeze me out. I earned that. But I was hoping... maybe someday... Someday is a long way off, Carson." "I know." He turned to leave, then stopped. "The university acceptance. When do you start?" "January. Creative writing program." A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "Mom always said you had stories in you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope. "Here. It's not much, but Maybe it'll help with books or something. Inside was a check for $3,000. I sold my Rolex, he explained. Seemed like time to grow up. I studied him for a moment. The shelter's always looking for volunteers. Yeah? Hope flickered in his eyes. Start there. Show, don't tell. That's what they teach riders. He nodded and walked away. Zariah came to stand beside me. You're not going to tear up that check? No. I tucked it into my pocket with the acceptance letter. Mom would want me to give him a chance to change. A small one. You're nicer than I would be. Not nice, I said. Just finally seeing clearly. Mom was right. Revenge isn't about destroying someone. It's about letting them face who they really are. I opened the photo album Carson had brought. On the first page, Mom had written, "My lighthouse keeper, finding light in the darkest places." Ready to go? Zariah asked. We've got that campus tour this afternoon. Almost. I pulled out my acceptance letter and placed it against Mom's headstone, weighing it down with a small stone. Thank you, I whispered, for everything. The autumn wind picked up again, scattering more leaves across the cemetery. But this time, they didn't look like decay. They looked like pages turning, starting a new chapter. Okay, I said, standing up. Now I'm ready. Sometimes karma doesn't knock. It walks in holding your mother's hand. And sometimes healing doesn't come from revenge, but from finally letting go of the lighthouse and becoming the light itself.